In this video, we're looking at how to connect your AWS resources to CloudConnexa with IPsec using Transit Gateway. But before we start, let's talk about the AWS networking components. We have the Virtual Private Gateway, VPG, and the Transit Gateway. Virtual Private Gateway, or VPG, serves as an entry point for IPsec VPN connections to your Amazon Virtual Private Cloud or AWS VPC. It provides connectivity to a single VPC within a specific AWS region. So when you use an IPsec VPN connection via the VPG, it allows access only to resources inside that associated VPC. So it's ideal for scenarios where you need a secure communication between your on-prem network and a specific VPC or AWS Virtual Private Cloud. Now, another component of AWS networking is the Transit Gateway. Transit Gateway is designed for more complex networking needs. It provides connectivity to multiple VPCs within the same AWS region. In conclusion, if you're dealing with a single VPC and need a straightforward VPN connection, use the VPG. If your network spans multiple VPCs and require more advanced features, consider the Transit Gateway. We already have a video that we go over the steps on how to configure IPsec using VPG. I'm going to put a link on the screen and in the description here for that video. But in this one, we're just going to concentrate on how to connect our AWS VPC to CloudConnexa with IPsec using Transit Gateway. As you can see, I'm logged into my admin user interface of CloudConnexa. So in order to connect my AWS VPC to CloudConnexa, I need to expand networks, go to networks again, and click on add a network. Here it's going to be a site-to-site, so I'm just going to choose the site-to-site scenario and click on continue. We're going to give it a name, so we're going to call it Net IPsec TG. And then for the connector tunneling protocol, it's going to be the IPsec. And then here, if you want to give a name, again, I'm going to just call it the IPsec TG connector. The region, for me, it's going to be in Los Angeles. So I'm just going to leave it as Los Angeles and then click on next. So we can see the information about our network configuration here. We're going to use the IPsec tunneling protocol. We can see the region. We can see the name of our connector and the CloudConnexa public IP address. So platform to connect, you can click on the drop down. We're talking about AWS VPC again, so we're going to choose AWS here. Now, there are some instructions here how to configure your CloudConnexa IPsec tunnel and how to create a virtual private gateway in AWS. But again, we're talking about Transit Gateway. So I'm just going to click on next on this part. From now on, we're going to switch to our AWS console. So we can see our VPC is already being configured here. If you look at the resource map, we can see we got two subnets here, one private and one public subnet. So the next thing that we need to do, we need to create our Transit Gateway. So on AWS console, if you go to Transit Gateway, we can click on create Transit Gateway here. The name tag, we need to give it a name. So I'm just gonna call it OVN Lab TG. If there is any description, we can add it here. For the ASN number or Amazon Site Autonomous System number, we're just going to leave it as blank for the default. I'm going to leave the DNS support checked. You can select this option if you need the VPC to obviously resolve your DNS host names to private addresses when queried. For VPN ECMP support, you can select this option if you need equal cost multipath or ECMP routing support between your VPN tunnels. If connections advertise the same CIDRs, the traffic is distributed equally between all of them. Default route table association. You can select this option to automatically associate Transit Gateway attachments with the default route table for the Transit Gateway. And then one before last is default route table propagation. Uh, this option is being selected when you want to automatically propagate transit gateway attachments to the default route table for the transit gateway, basically. And then the last one here, as you can see, multicast support. Obviously, to use the transit gateway as a router for multicast traffic, then you can select this option. The next section, configure cross account sharing options. If you select this, then attachments are automatically accepted. Otherwise, you must accept or reject attachment requests. So in this section, transit gateway CIDR blocks, you can specify one or more IPv4 or IPv6 CIDR blocks for your transit gateway. And then the last part, tags optional. If you want to add any tags, you can add them here. Once you're done with everything else, click on Create New Transit Gateway. And as we can see here, the transit gateway is being created. The status shows pending. This may take a few minutes. Okay, now we can see our transit gateway is created and it's available here. Now the next step is to create a site-to-site VPN using the transit gateway. In order to do so, again, on our AWS console, we're going to go to site-to-site VPN connections here. And we want to create a new connection, so we're going to click on Create a VPN connection. So for the name here, we're just going to give it a name. So let's go ahead, call it IPsec TG. For the target gateway type, this is going to be a transit gateway. So I'm just going to select that. And then from drop down, I'm just going to choose the transit gateway we just created a minute ago. For customer gateway, if you have an existing customer gateway, you can choose existing and then choose it down here. I have to create a new one. And the very first field after that is to specify the IP address of your customer gateway. This is where we need to go back to our CloudConnexa portal and copy this IP address, remote gateway IP address. And then we're going to bring it back here and paste it here. For the certificate ARN and BGP ASN, I'm just going to leave them as default. And then for the routing options, I'm going to choose a static. Tunnel inside IP version is IPv4. The rest of the stuff is optional. If you need to make any changes, you go ahead and do that. Otherwise, you go ahead and click on Create VPN Connection. As you can see, the site-to-site is being created right now. The state is pending. This is going to take a few minutes. I'll come back when it's done. Okay, our site-to-site is ready now. The state shows available. The next thing, we need to attach our VPC to transit gateway. So on our AWS console, we go to transit gateway attachments here. We're going to click on create transit gateway attachment. For the name, we're just going to give it a name here. So again, I'm just going to put a quick name here. And transit gateway ID, this is the transit gateway we created a minute ago. Attachment type, it's going to be VPC. Again, we can choose here if we want to have DNS support, IPv6 support, appliance mode support. You select any of these as needed. Then VPC ID, we're going to choose our VPC ID. And then for the subnet, you can choose one subnet for each availability zone to be used by the transit gateway to route traffic. I just have one here. And then the last part is the tags. Again, optional. If you want to add any tags, you can add them here. I'm just going to go ahead and click on Create Transit Gateway Attachment. So you can see here that it's being created. The state is pending. Again, this is going to take a few minutes. I'll come back when it's done. Okay, it's done. You can see the state is available. Now, the next part is create a NAT gateway in VPCs or VPC's public subnet. So if you remember early on, I showed that we had two subnets for our VPC. I just renamed these subnets so we can distinguish which one of them. So let me refresh this page and look here. So here we go. We have one public and one private. So we're going to create the NAT gateway in the VPC's public subnet. Now, in order to do so, we're going to go to NAT gateways on our AWS console again, and then we're going to click on create a NAT gateway. So here we're going to give it a name. So let me go ahead, just here we go. Then we're going to select the subnet again. This is our public subnet. So I'm just going to choose this one. So connectivity type is going to be public, and then for the elastic IP allocation ID, we need to choose one or allocate one. So I'm just going to choose one here, and the rest of the informations are optional, so we can change them as needed. Then when you're done, click on Create NAT Gateway, and here we go. We can see that it is created. Okay, this is done. We can see the state is available. Now we need to add some routes to our VPC private subnet and public subnet. So let's go back to our VPC here. And if you remember, we had two subnets, public and private. So let's go first to our public subnet. And we're going to look at the route table here. Let's click on that and select the route, and we're going to add a couple of routes here. So this is our public subnet. We're going to go back to our CloudConnexa. There are two static IP prefixes you can see here. So we're going to add these two to our public subnet routes, and we're going to point them to our transit gateway, the one that we just created. So we're going to click on that, go to transit gateway, and we're going to choose the transit gateway. Do the same thing for the other range. Here we go. And again, same transit gateway. And when we're done, we'll click on Save Changes. So this is done. Now let's go back to route tables. We need to do we need to add some routes to our private subnet as well. So again, I'm going to go to routes here, edit routes. And the very first thing we're going to do for the private subnet, we're going to add all zeros to our NAT gateway, the one we just created. Then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get these two IP subnets, and we're going to point them to the transit gateway that we created earlier. Let's go ahead and grab the second one here, and we're going to add that one here also. Let's see. And same thing points to the transit gateway. And we are done. So now we need to download the configuration file. So let's go back to our site-to-site VPN connection and select the tunnel or site-to-site that we created a few minutes ago. Click on download configuration. For the vendor, we're going to click on the drop-down and choose generic. The rest of the stuff is okay. You can leave it as default and click on download. Once this is downloaded, we head back to our CloudConnexa. Now, if you scroll down to the second part, it says set up CloudConnexa tunnel. And we can see we have an option of uploading generic configuration file. So I'm just go ahead and upload the file that I just downloaded. And here we go. The file has been uploaded. All the information is visible here for the tunnels. We can click on test connections to test each connection. And we can see our number one is connected. Let's try second one as well. The second one is connected as well. So we'll go ahead, click on next. So this is where we're going to finish our configuring our routings. We did configure route tables in our VPC subnets in previous step. There is one last thing that we need to do in our AWS console. So let me head back to the AWS console here. Now the last step is adding some routes to our transit gateway route table. So let's go to our transit gateways, and this is the one we created a few minutes ago. So let's go to route table, And here we're going to add a few things. So click on the static routes. The very first thing we're going to do, we need to get our WPC subnet. Again, if we go to CloudConnexa, we can see the WPC subnet here. We're going to copy this, come back here, add it. And the attachment that we're going to use, it's going to be the VPN. So we're going to choose our VPN resource. Click on create static route. We need to add another one here. So let's go back to routes again. So we're going to go ahead and add now we need to add our domain routing subnet. So we go back here to CloudConnexa, get the domain routing subnet, come back here, paste it. And this one is going to be pointing to our VPN resource as well. So click on create static route. And then the last one, we're going to go ahead and use zeros. And this one is going to point to our VPC resource. So we're going to choose the VPC here and click on create static routes. So as we can see, the routes have been created. And this was the last step that we needed to do. So we're going to go back to our CloudConnexa, click on next. So this is where we can add an application. Just for the purpose of this demo, I'm just going to add an application that we have here, CRM. It's using HTTP and HTTPS, and the address is crm.ovnlab.local. Click on add application. So this has been added. Click on next. Routes, if you need to add any routes, you can do that here, or IP services, you can add it here. Click on next. Access group, if you need to configure any access groups here, you can do this. This is an optional steps. You can create new access groups, or you can do that later on, and click on finish. So as you can see, my connection status is online. The name of my network, the internet access split tunnel is on right now, internet gateway is off, and the tunneling protocol we use is IPsec. So in this video, we saw how we can connect our AWS VPC to CloudConnexa with IPsec using Transit Gateway. Just a quick note here again that you can connect your AWS VPC to CloudConnexa with IPsec using either the Transit Gateway or Virtual Private Gateway. Virtual Private Gateway provides connectivity to a single Amazon VPC within a specific AWS region, rather than Transit Gateway provides connectivity to multiple Amazon VPCs within the same AWS region.